Welcome back, everyone. It's Eric from American. Here today we are back on the channel with another first impressions video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Japanese set Dream League. So this will most likely be lumped into our Cosmic Eclipse set that comes out in November. So we do have probably a good amount of time before this thing finally does, kind of come stateside and get released internationally. But definitely wanted to give you kind of my first impressions, as you would guess, on some of these cards. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the major cards in the set were revealed a little bit ahead of time. So unfortunately, I don't think there's too many surprises if you guys have been following this set. But I'm sure there's definitely a couple of hidden gems probably lurking around somewhere in this set. Generally, these are going to be my first impressions. I kind of skimmed through this whenever this set list got posted, but haven't really put too much thought into any of these cards just yet. So let's take a look and see what we have here in Dream League. So looks like we have the Vileplume GX line, and like I mentioned, this is one of the cards that did get revealed several days ahead of this set. But let's take a look at 240 HP, Stage 2, pretty decent there. Fire Weak, 2 Retreat. Says once during your turn, you may heal 30 from each of your Pokemon. Okay, it's pretty good. So, gives your Pokemon some tanking potential. I mean, right now, Unified Minds technically isn't even legal, but I think a lot of decks are going to be focused on one-hit KOs, so I'm not sure how much this is going to be good against. This could definitely be a great ability against spread decks, especially because this doesn't even have to be your active, so that might be a consideration if we see something like Wheezing ever decide to pop back up, or something kind of like that. It's definitely a big nerf to any deck kind of like that. But let's see here, has 2 attacks, Grass Chorus 180, 10 less for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Ooh, that's not too good, unfortunately. I mean, 2 for 180 really isn't like a terrible amount of damage, but I mean, 180 is really not knocking out too much these days. We can pick off the Denes, but I really don't see this Vileplume being a great main attacker. I mean, I guess we have Gardenia, and we do have some Life Force. We do have some healing stuff, so I mean, I guess you can make it happen, but this doesn't seem too good overall. Then 50, your opponent's act as Poison, Burn, and Paralyzed. Okay, so Poison is 60, Burn puts us up to 80, so 80 for 1 Paralysis. So yeah, Vileplume not too good. Ability could be good. I think it does have potential to be like a tech, but pretty bad attacker. Let's see, we got McCargo, discard 2 cards from top of your opponent's deck. Okay, so kind of like the old Houndoom EX. I guess it's okay. Discarding 2 is not strong enough, I think, to actually successfully deck out your opponent, however. I think if you want to do this, I think I'd rather just play the Moltres that has the milling effect, because you could go Welder, attach return, and kind of do that if you wanted to. But that still doesn't seem very good either. Probably not too good. We got Torkoal. Let's see, put 4 fire from discard into your hand, then 100 discard energy from this Pokemon, and then discard energy from your opponent's active. Okay, so I mean, you can go Weld or attach 100, and we still do have Crushing Hammer in the format, so you could do something like that. I don't think that's probably strong enough to be a deck of its own, and I don't see a reason to really tech this in to anything right now. Probably a pass, but Kindle you actually can power up in 1 turn, so I guess it's worth kind of keeping in the back of your mind for that reason. Let's see, we got ourselves a water type Weavile. So this would probably be good if we still had Brookwood Hill in format, just because we could grab the Sneasels, but we don't, so that's a bummer. But here we have Weavile. Search your deck for up to 2 cards, put them in your hand. So that's decent, but Slash Claw isn't too good. So you could, I guess, potentially play this in Dark Box if you ever do want some type coverage, since you still attack for dark energy, so that's definitely going to be the upside to a card like this. If the Dark Box Weavile GX style deck needs itself a water type attacker to deal with something in the format, you could definitely play one of these, potentially get there. Only thing is, you can't knock out Reshiram with something like this. We lost Choice Band, so we're only hitting for 110, not 140. So that's definitely a bit of a bummer. But I mean, again, this is a card you'll have to kind of keep in the back of your mind as the meta kind of shifts and stuff. So a potential one of tech for Dark Box. Oh, it does have 0 retreat. We'll point that. That's actually pretty good. Next we got Empoleon. This was another Pokemon that did get revealed ahead of time, and I am a big Empoleon fan. I love all of the Gen 4 starters in general, so happy to see new Empoleon cards. But this one's 160 HP, and looks like the main... Okay, yeah. Both attacks I remember being like halfway decent. So the first one, choose an attack from this Pokemon's previous evolutions, use it as this attack, and then the other one is 2 colors, 130, discard all energy. So with a triple acceleration, you're doing 130, and you discard the energy anyway, so the discarding effect here really isn't even too bad. 130 isn't horrible, but I really wish this was 140 because we can't even knock out Reshiram, which feels pretty bad, unless this deck would play some other damage modifier alongside it. But just reading it how it is, a little bit annoying right there. But, okay, yeah, so recall. There is a Piplup that we did get. And so we see here, 3 water energy, 80 damage. If the defending Pokemon is a basic, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. So that's actually a pretty good attack if we're going to be copying attacks from, pre-evolutions, because... yeah, we actually don't even have to fulfill the energy cost, which is nice, but my issue with this card is I wish this was prevent all effects of attacks including damage, or even just prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by basic Pokemon on your opponent's next turn. I really wish that was the case, because now if you do this attack and your opponent just retreats into a different basic Pokemon, that Pokemon can hit you. So the wording of this card, I think, kind of... dashes the hopes of Empoleon being very good, unfortunately. So close. If this was 140 and the wording on Piplup was better, I think we would have ourselves a really solid non-GX, but it's like just shy of being good. But let's see, we have Wishy-Washy. Okay, if this Pokemon is a damage counter on it, flip a coin at the end of your opponent's turn. If tails, shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck. Okay. So I could see, like, if we had a deck that could move a lot of damage counters, like, on your Pokemon around, this would be much better. So if we had something like the old Reuniclus, you could theoretically, like, move all your damage counters to your Wishy-Washy, and then at the end of your opponent's turn, you shuffle this card back into your deck, and you remove all that damage from play. So that could be something, but I don't think we really have anything that's very effective like that. So, cool ability. I just don't think there's a deck that can use it right now. Got Dupiter and Araquanid. Let's see. We've been getting a lot of Araquanids in recent sets, it feels like. Water, 2 colors, 80. Then, during your next turn, any damage done to the defending Pokemon is increased by 60. Okay, so that's not too bad. 60 buff guaranteed on your next turn, but 80 for 3 energy, not so great. Next up, we have a new Pikachu and Raichu. I'm actually really excited for these. These did get revealed pretty recently as well. But we have a Nuzzle Pikachu and a Nuzzle Raichu. So this is actually pretty relevant here. So this has the powerful Spark Attack. This is actually like almost identical to Raichu GX, but instead of 20 plus 20, it's 20 times. So it's basically 20 less damage, but you only give up 1 prize. And takes 1 attachment, which is kind of nice. But 20 times the amount of lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So if you guys are familiar with the Emolga that can search out Nuzzle Pokemon, and also the Pachirisu that can accelerate energy to Nuzzle Pokemon, or accelerate for every Pokemon with Nuzzle in play, then you guys will probably can kind of see what they're going to be pushing here. I'm excited to try this out. I was a big fan of Raichu GX. That card always just like was in the most awkward spot. I remember it got printed around when Buzzwole came out, so its weakness was really terrible, and then it lost a lot of the cards it needed to succeed. Like, it lost the Nuzzle Pikachu up until recently, and I remember, like, right when the promo Nuzzle Pikachu got reprinted, right before rotation, the deck just wasn't, like, that well positioned. So this archetype has always had awesome stuff going for it, but its timing has always been bad. So we'll have to see when this Raichu comes out if things change. But I'm excited to mess with this. I've always been a fan of the Nuzzle deck. Let's see. Okay, so we got Magneton. This was yet again, another card that got revealed pretty early. And very interesting, this card is a holo. Seeing like the stage 1 of an evolution line be a holo is a little bit different. But yeah, so it has this ability. You can choose up 3 supporters from your deck and then knock out Magneton. So the synergy here is pretty blatant. You knock out Magneton and you grab a Surge and two other supporters and you go crazy that way and get set up. So it kind of reminds me of the Mismagius engine that we've seen with like tag teams recently, but there's definitely some pros and cons to both. Like Mismagius is more consistent because you can search it out with Treasure and you have Duskstone, so that's a lot better, but it doesn't like directly get you Surge and two supporters. It just kind of enables that combo. So that's more easily searchable and easy to get set up, but the ability here from Magneton is much stronger because you directly grab all of the cards you need in your combo. So yeah, this card seems pretty good though. I like this. Mismagius has seen some degree of play in like the quad style tag team decks, so we might see Magneton do the same thing at some point. So you could go like just as an example, Surge, Green's Welder, or something like that if you really want to, or just various different combinations of supporters. I really like this because we can actually search out one of supporters, which is something we really don't have a good way of doing right now because Lele's gone, and the best we have is like Pokegear, and Pokegear is a good card, but it's not reliable in terms of like searching out one of supporters. It just kind of makes it slightly better odds. So I'm excited for this Magneton. This seems pretty cool. And we have Solgaleo and Lunala GX. So one thing that looks to be a theme with this mini set in particular here is the tag teams all have some synergy with a different supporter that comes out in this set. But this guy, 270 HP, first attack, 3 Psychic and a Colorless is 230, and you can't use Cosmic Burn during your next turn. So Malamar, we have yet again another good potential tag team partner for Malamar. 230 is definitely a pretty solid number to hit for, but again, we don't have choice band, so the numbers might be a little bit awkward, but I guess we have Spell Tag, we have Giratina, it might be okay. But the GX attack here for 2 Psychic Colorless is 200, and if you play Lily's Best Effort from your hand during this turn, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to each of your Pokemon. So, pretty solid little GX attack, but I do kind of like this card. The fact that we have a good tag team, or a relatively decent tag team here, that only uses Psychic Energy is big. I think a lot of Malamar's best attackers historically have had weird energy costs, like Garchomp Giratina, Ultra Necrozma, etc. So it's nice to have a heavy hitter here that doesn't need additional types of energy in the deck. Quickly, let's just go down and scroll to Lily's Best Effort, though. Let's see what that does, just for some context here. I remember looking at it. I don't remember what it does, though. So, draw 4 cards. If you have 3 or more cards in hand at the end of this turn, shuffle cards into your deck until you only have 2 remaining. So, that's actually a pretty big oof. That is not a great card. Yeah, so I mean, I guess there's worse cards that it could require us to play, but that's definitely an awkward cost to fulfill. Let's see. So maybe if we're playing this, we might just save our GX attack for something like Latios GX, or maybe even Espeon Deoxys. So Cosmic Burn for 230 is definitely solid, though, since we have Spell Tag in the format. So 230, and then with the 4 damage counters from Spell Tag, I think you can probably get where you need to go with this thing. So, seems decent. So we have Coughing and Wheezing. I remember both these have kind of a gimmicky ability. Once during your turn before you attack, this Pokemon is discarded by the effect of Roxy, which is a new supporter. You may put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon, and you do resolve the Roxy effect first. And it looks like Wheezing has the identical ability here, and then its attack, Balloon Burst 90, discard this Pokemon, and all cards attached to it. That's very interesting. Okay, so first let's go and check what Roxy does really quick. Let's see. So here we go. You discard up to 2 Pokemon cards from your hand. For each card discarded, draw 3 cards from your deck. So that's actually pretty cool because it's kind of like the Ultra Recon Squad, which is kind of actually a decent drawing effect, but it's just so limited because it has to be Ultra Beast. This actually seems pretty decent, especially for a deck that is going to play like maybe like 24-ish Pokemon, something like that, where you're almost always guaranteed to have like 2 Pokemon in your hand. This actually could be pretty good, especially if we are playing like the Weezings and stuff like that. The only issue I'm seeing is like, what do you actually play this with? That's the question. So I guess like you could theoretically play it with the current Weezing that we have, but the issue is you can only play 4 Weezing total, and so you're basically going to be limited to just doing this with the Coughings. I guess you could play one of this Weezing as well and just play a bunch of Lure Balls or something. So that seems like an option. I don't know. I don't know the deck you're doing this in, but the Roxy engine actually seems like kind of okay, even outside of using, you know, these Coughings and Weezings with it. So, I mean, I think the obvious pair, though, is playing this with the Weezing from Unbroken Bond, since you're already trying to spread damage counters. So that seems kind of okay. We have Natu and Xatu. So Xatu coin pets, put damage counters on your opponent's active until its remaining HP is 10. Okay, and there is a new supporter that will allow you to decide the outcomes of coin flips. So you could theoretically play this like Malamar or something, where you just play spell tags and Xatus. And so you're going to, let's say, put like a tag team down to 10 HP and then like a shrine in between turns, or like a spell tag or something like that can, you know, up your odds of, you know, taking essentially big one-hit KOs. And these cards typically have not been too great historically, but we do have the option. It is a shame we lost the Fliptini. The new supporter card is decent, but again, it's a supporter, which makes it substantially worse than something like Fliptini, which otherwise would be, well, I shouldn't say substantially worse, but just kind of clunkier, just because we can't play any draw supporters in the same turn. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that, but there are some cute ways to fulfilling this like one-hit KO type of thing here. So let's see, we have a new Gallade and a Psychic Ralts and Curlius. That is pretty relevant because we can now search out, you know, Ralts and Curlius with Mysterious Treasure. And they all attack for colorless energy, which is nice as well. So Gallade, this is actually a card I did see already, and one I actually do like. So 160 HP, Psychic type, has this ability. As long as it's in play, its typing is both Psychic and Fighting. So I really, really like this because Mysterious Treasure, or well, this being Psychic means that this is Mysterious Treasurable Searchable, which is a huge issue with a lot of cards right now in the current format. Without Ultra Ball, without good just generic search options, cards like Treasure, Netball, etc. are going to be, you know, really, really good in the decks that you can use them. So I really like this, that we can hit Fighting and Psychic weakness. But its damage output is like a little awkward. So 2 for 120 is fine, but it says move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. The only way to actually get down the double attachment at once is going to be with something like Triple Acceleration, or you're going to have to play something like Welder, or, you know, Malamar, or some other energy acceleration. So maybe you just play Malamars and, or I'm sorry, maybe you just play triples and welders and do that whole type of thing. That doesn't seem too bad. Yeah, because I guess once you move the first energy, even if they knock out this one, you're only another basic energy away from being able to attack. So like once you get one of these set up, you kind of keep your chain going. And you have spell tags, so that's actually pretty good. So you can one-shot Pikarom, that seems good, but I don't know, this card seems generally pretty okay. I wish we had a good Gardevoir in the format to pair with this. That's one of the only downsides. We don't have a good Guardy Gallade combo. But overall, card seems okay. I will have my eye on this one. Also, the art is just pretty awesome on this thing, too. So we have Mimikyu, discard a supporter from our hand, then use the effect of the supporter's this attack. Put 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. This card's like kind of okay. The spread attack really isn't terrible either. Maybe you play this in something like Weezing? I'm not sure. This card just seems like kind of okay overall. Not really sure why I'm playing it in. So we do have a new Onix and Steelix in this set. The Onix says put an energy from your discard pile into your hand. Then Tail Smash 100, not too great. It does have 4 retreat costs, which is worth pointing out at least, because we did get the, what was it, Pokemaniac in Unified Minds to allow you to search out the 4 retreaters. So that is something to keep in mind. We have Excadrill here. I actually do like the art on this thing too. But let's see. 140 HP, that's actually pretty good. 4 retreat costs yet again. That's something worth pointing out. Let's see. 30. If you have 3 or fewer cards in deck, this attack does 150 more damage. So 180 for 1 really isn't too bad. But just in terms of numbers, it's kind of awkward. That's a fantastic energy to damage ratio, but 180 it just isn't like a particularly great number to hit for because tag teams are going to have like 240 to around 270 HP, but that's definitely pretty decent. Again, as far as the energy to damage output ratio, other attack 120, discard 4 cards from the top of your deck. Okay, so you can see like what they're trying to do here, and I believe there is a new item. I think it's Clefairy that or a Clefairy doll that can put itself back into your deck if I remember correctly. So we have that, and we have the Suicune GX. So there are ways to actually prevent us from decking out. So maybe you play this with like a bunch of Zebstrikas and just try to like get yourself all the way down to like only a couple cards in deck and use those like Suicunes and Fairy Dolls to just try to make sure you don't deck out. So this definitely seems like a gimmick, but its energy to damage ratio is admittedly pretty solid here. But it might just be a little gimmicky. So we have Palpitoad and Seismitoad. I actually didn't know these guys were fighting Pokemon, or I think they're ground technically in the video games. So let's see, Palpitoad 1 for 60. That's not bad. Then 10 to each bench Pokemon, or each of your bench Pokemon. Let's see, and we got Seismitoad, and this art is terrible. I am not a big fan of this artwork, but the ability, it has Smooth Over. So just like the Macargo, search your deck for a card, put it on top. And then fighting triple colorless, so fighting and then a triple acceleration energy, basically. This attack does 30 more for each of your bench Pokemon with any damage counters on them. Okay, so we see the synergy here, and this kind of is like the Stunfisk that we already have, but of course the damage output is much better, but it costs more energy, and we're a stage 2, so if we just run through the math, if each of our bench Pokemon have damage counters, that's what, 150 plus 80, so hitting 230, and it's really not too bad. Like, that knocks out a lot of the non-tag teams. Of course, we just, like, blow through Pikarom, but seems like kind of gimmicky. If Stunfisk doesn't see much play, I don't think this is going to see much play. So let's see, we have Steelix. 4 retreat cost, so that is definitely relevant. Like I said, we had the 4 retreat Onix, so it's actually pretty good because fighting Pokemon and I guess metal Pokemon by extension don't really have great engines to actually find their Pokemon right now, so that seems cool. 170 HP, also good. And we have Thwomp Fall for 2 colors, 50. Well, you may discard any number of Pokemon from your hand that have a retreat cost of 4. This is 50 for each card discarded in this way. Okay, so we have another Pokemon to add to like the 4 retreat cost, like Pokemaniac style deck. So it actually doesn't seem too bad. We have the Licky Licky, we have Lickitung, we have Arcanine. I mean, there's a ton of other like really bad Pokemon for retreat cost as well. But yeah, the stack actually seems like not too terrible. And we have Lure Ball, so we can actually recycle these because a lot of the 4 retreat Pokemon are going to be evolutions. So being able to lure ball them back actually seems like kind of fun. I don't know if it's good, but it seems fun at the least. See, Iron Tail, Metal, 3 colorless, flip until you get hit. Oh, nope, we are not doing that. But first attack actually doesn't seem too bad. We got Clefairy. See, Doll Transformation, 3 to do 60. Return this Pokemon, all cards attached to your hand. Then you may play a Lily's Clefairy doll from your hand as you're active. So the Clefairy doll doesn't give up a prize whenever it gets knocked out. So that's kind of like a hit and run style strategy here. But I don't think there's any way you're getting 3 energy on a Clefairy consistently. So that doesn't seem too good. If you're playing Clefable, you could, in theory, use something like a Memory Energy or something like that. But then, it seems bad because then you have to still go like Memory Energy triple. So yeah, card seems pretty bad. Next up, we have the big daddy of the set. We got Reshiram and Zekrom GX. This card got revealed a little while back. This card looked nuts from what I remember. So Dragon, 270 HP, 2 attacks. First one, Fire Lightning. Discard up to 3 combination of basic Fire Lightning cards from your bench Pokemon. Does 90 for each card discarded in this way. So you are capped at 270. But I mean, it's 270. You really don't need to hit for much higher than that, anyways. This attack is nuts. So, and this is so easy to power up to. There's both lightning and fire Pokemon have ways to get powered up. We have Welder, we have Tapu Koko Prism Star, even the Lightning Magnezone still in format. We have Naganadel. There's also the Victini that came out in Unified Minds. So this is like the perfect partner for that card, since it can accelerate multiple types of energy into play. So that can be another way you can get set up. Both of these cards don't have abilities, so you could even like try to play the greens engine if you want to go that route. But Naganadel also seems just like generally really good because you can always they're always going to be on your bench and you can get back the energy every time. So that seems good. GX attack, 2 fire, 2 lightning. Does 170 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. If you played Ends Resolve from your hand during this turn, does also 170 to another one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So that's definitely good. A double 170 snipe. If your opponent has 2 Dedennes in play, just this attack basically just reads take 4 prizes. But let's take a look at what Ends Resolve does. Again, so we kind of know what we're working with. So discard the top 6 cards of your deck. Attach all basic energy cards. Discard this way to one of your bench dragon Pokemon. I forgot this card did that. Okay, so this actually is really good with the Reshiram Zekrom. Just because you can stack your deck basically just full of energy, kind of like the Gyarados deck, and just play like a bunch of these. That seems pretty good. So yeah, I think this Reshiram Zekrom has a ton of different support. This is, I think, probably is the best card we've looked at so far. So we have a bunch of different ways to get this thing up and running. Like I said, Victini, Naganadel, Welder, a bunch of things already to get this thing going. So I think this card seems absolutely nuts. I think it's going to be pretty consistent to get your 270 every turn with this first attack. So this guy is just a tag team annihilator. Big fan of this card. Oh, also, Treasure Searchable, it's Dragon type, so another thing going its way. But let's see here. Next we have a new Stoutland. Let's see. Nothing too important on the pre-evolutions. So 150 HP. Once during your turn for attack, whenever you play this card from hand to evolve a Pokemon, you may discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. If this is your active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, you may discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So this is interesting, kind of like a energy denial Pokemon we have. It's cool, you can get like 2 different effects. Like we do have the Lycanroc GX that has a similar ability, but it only works whenever you evolve into it, and I believe it's an energy from their active, if I'm not mistaken. So this is still the active, but you can get an additional effect if it gets knocked out, so that's kind of cool. Also, we have the like Hyper De-Evolution Spray, or whatever it's called, that came out in Unbroken Bonds, so we can like de-evolve this thing and try to keep doing that. So that seems kind of cute. This card actually seems like it might have some potential. Oh, and it does have an attack too. Didn't even look at it. So 3 colors, 110, just 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So we can actually attack with this too, so that's kind of nice since it can attack for triple colorless, or triple acceleration energy, I'm sorry. Then we also have the Welder engine to, also kind of pick up the slack on the turns we don't have that. So that seems kind of neat. We do have Crushing Hammer still in format, so we can do something like that. I can even see a world where you're just playing things like either a Rangaroo or Girafarig, and basically every turn you're trying to just like de-evolve and re-evolve to discard energies and use Girafarig to like put them in the Lost Zone, or use your Orangaroos to get back the De-Evolution Sprays or Crushing Hammers or whatever it might be. So I think this card actually has some potential. I'd have to just sit down and play around with the card to see how good it is, but I actually am a fan of this, I think. So we have Type Null, and we have our new Lord and Savior, Silvally GX. This card has seen a lot of hype. It is a good card. I do think people need to kind of temper some of their thoughts about this, though. But let's take a look. 210 HP. Stage 1 ability. Once during your turn before you attack, you may draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. And then for 2 colors, does 50 plus 70 more if you played a supporter from your hand this turn. And then it's GX attack. Same attack cost. If your opponent's active is an Ultra Beast, it's knocked out. So a lot of people right now are calling this the new Zoroark GX, and I definitely see the similarities. It's a Stage 1 Pokemon that has a consistency boosting ability. Then it also has just kind of an average 2-shotting attack with its pretty manageable single attachment attack cost. So it definitely draws some parallels to Zoroark. I don't think this is quite as good as something like Zoroark. The reason for that is think this is much closer to something like an Octillery that can attack. So think of Octillery back when it saw play, the one all the way back from Breakthrough, and Octillery was seen as primarily like a 1-1 line or like a 2-2 line. Now, granted, it didn't attack, but a lot of times it was hard to play down your hand low enough to actually get this effect every turn. Whereas Zoroark, it doesn't matter your hand size. You can keep using trade over and over, and if you get out, 4 Zoroarks, you're drawing an additional 8 cards every turn, and that's just not the case with this Silvally GX. Now, the one thing this card does have going for it, though, is it has a variety of different type nulls. It has another Silvally GX you can play as a partner Pokemon, and it also has the different memory cards that can give you some better type coverage against different things. Now, the one thing that's really annoying about this card, though, it only hits for 120, which means even if we hit for weakness against some of the different stuff out there, we're not taking a knockout. Like, if we have water memory down on this thing and hit a Reshizard, we're still going to be 30 damage short of taking a knockout. So that's one thing I really don't like about this. I really wish this was like 70 plus 70, because then we could actually reliably one-shot everything in the format with the proper memory cards, of course. And we don't really have a good way at modifying its damage output other than those. So yeah, it's a good card, don't get me wrong. This card I think we'll see play, but people should temper their expectations. This is not the new Zoroark GX, but it is a pretty solid card. And wow, that's actually it. Yes, this is definitely one of the smaller Japanese sets. But we have some trainer cards. We have Lana's Fishing Rod. Shuffle 1 Pokemon, 1 tool card from discard into your deck. Okay, so this is this is going to be one of the only forms of recovery we're going to have in this new format. Being able to get a tool card is actually kind of significant, because we can get things like spell tags back. We can get even like the giant bombs from Unified Minds back. So that's actually really, really nice. There traditionally hasn't really been too much tool recovery in the past. We've had the, Eco Arm, but even that card really hasn't been very good. So I like this. This is a kind of okay card. The Pokemon retrieval aspect of it is not as strong as something like Rescue Stretcher or Super Rod, but the fact that we get a tool card is, I think, pretty good, and this isn't limited to only evolution Pokemon like the current Lure Ball that we have is. So I think there's definitely room for this to see play. So we got Lily's Clefairy Doll. I kind of mentioned this one already. So it's kind of like the old Clefairy Doll, kind of like the current unidentified fossil. It's an item, but you can play it down as a Pokemon. It's 30 HP colorless basic, and you may, at any time during your turn, you may put this card on the bottom of your deck and discard all cards attached to it. So this card can't retreat. If this card is knocked out, your opponent can't take any prize cards for it. So that is actually very, very significant. Very different from the current unidentified fossil, much closer to the old Robo Substitute. So this is very nice for like the hit and run style decks, like the Dawn fan decks we've seen in the past, or maybe even like the new Behemoth that we are getting in Unified Minds. You can use Behemoth's attack, shuffle it back into your deck, promote this, and then your opponent can't take a knockout in between turns. So I do like this, especially because the different walling Pokemon that we have aren't that great. Well, I shouldn't say that. We have some decent walling Pokemon, but we don't have great retreating methods for them. So again, cards like Beedrill, cards like Behemoth are going to love something like this. This definitely seems pretty good. So we have Will. Okay, it's supporter. After playing this card, the first time you flip a coin for the effect of a trainer card ability or attack during this turn, you may choose to make the result heads or tails. So yeah, this is the card I was talking about earlier with Xatu. And I'm definitely going to have to do some digging through the card pool, because I just know ever since we got the Fliptini, even going all the way back to Nibble Victories when it first came out, I would sometimes look through the card pool and be like, man, I really wish this flipping effect here was an attack. That way I could reflip it with Victini. And so I know there's been powerful abilities or powerful trainer cards that I would love to be able to reflip on. So think of something like Crushing Hammer. You could just get an auto discard with something like Will, which is really nice. So I could even see this maybe in disruption decks where you don't mind playing these like slower supporters instead of draw supporters, and just guarantee like your Crushing Hammers being heads seems really good. But like I say, guys, there's so many flipping cards in the format. We'll definitely have to go through, especially once we do our actual set review for Cosmic Eclipse. We'll have to comb through the card pool and see what all combinations exist for this thing. But I think this card seems pretty cool. I'm sure there's something out there that can really make use of this. So I'm excited to kind of take a look and see everything that we have access to. But that seems like a pretty neat supporter. Ends Resolve we already looked at. Definitely super busted with the Reshiram Zekrom. Trying to think if there's anything else. Like, you could play this with like Ultra Necrozma. You could play it with like Latios. Again, we'll have to look through the card pool and see what all Dragon Pokemon could want this, especially like basic Dragon Pokemon. Because again, you could basically turn any Dragon deck into like a pseudo Gyarados deck. Of course, the Gyarados that like mills the top cards of your deck to hit water energy, so something like that. But definitely seems busted with the Reshiram Zekrom. Roxy we already looked at as well. Outside of the coughing, wheezing idea, I think this card still seems pretty good. Like I said, Ultra Recon Squad is very similar, and its big downside is that it's limited to just Ultra Beast. And of course, this is still limited. It excludes Pokemon GX and EX, but even despite that, I think this could be a pretty solid draw option in non-GX decks. Just draw 6 is just such a good effect. And of course, I mean, even draw 3 isn't terrible either, but if you're going to be able to consistently draw 6 with this thing, I'm a fan of this. This could be like a decent 2-of in certain decks out there. So Rosa, have not actually seen this card yet. So you can only play this if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Search deck for a Pokemon trainer and basic energy revealed and put them into your hand. Okay, Rosa, I see you out here. It's kind of like a Teammates reprint, but better and worse in certain aspects. So Teammates had the same kind of clause where you could only play if you had a Pokemon get knocked out on your opponent's turn, but you got search your deck for any 2 cards. So this one's more limited in its search, but the upside is that you get 3 cards, which is pretty impressive. And a lot of times you can fulfill the same sort of effect even with this, because you can grab, like, let's say you need 2 Pokemon, just as an example. You can grab a Pokemon and then a trainer that can find the other Pokemon that you typically want off something like Teammates. So there are certain situations where this effectively does the same thing Teammates does, but yeah, I really like this. This is definitely going to be good for slower decks and also evolution and non-GX based decks. So I'm always a fan of that when we get cards that help those out, just because you probably won't be able to make use of something like this very consistently in like a tag team based deck, just because your opponent's only taking 2, maybe 3 knockouts in the course of a game. But if you're a non-GX deck, you effectively have 5 different turns that you can make use of this, because your opponent is going to knock out 5 Pokemon before taking their final 6th prize here. So just like with Teammates, this card seems really, really solid. I really am a big fan of this. I do, however, wish that this wasn't limited just to basic energy, just because special energies don't have really a great way at being searched out right now. But nevertheless, this seems good, especially if you're like a stage 2. You can go Rosa, grab yourself like your stage 2, a rare candy, and an energy to attach to that Pokemon. Just seems pretty solid overall. So I'm a fan of this. One of the big downsides, however, right now is we don't have Versus Seeker. We also don't have Tapu Lele GX. So it's going to be kind of hard to find this on the turns that you want it right now. But nevertheless, I think this card is sweet, and I'm definitely going to have my eye on it. And let's see, we have Lily's Best Effort, which we already went over, but then we have Clay. This is going to be like the last new card we're going to look at here. So discard the top 7 of your deck, reveal all items discarded in this way to your opponent, and put them into your hand. So I could definitely see this in a deck that's like heavily item reliant. Like, think of something like your quad style tag team decks, like the Gardevoir Sylveons of the world and the Buzzmoses of the world, where you play like less than 10 Pokemon most of the time, and most of your deck is just items. This could actually be really good, especially if you're playing like 4 Acrobike, 4 Judge Whistle. You can even hit draw options off of this. Now, of course, not hitting items feels pretty bad, unfortunately, but I don't know, I think this card does have some potential. Like I said, I'm kind of thinking the quad-style tag team decks are going to be where, a card like this might want to shine. Or even in something like Aegislash as well. This could have some synergy there. So not really a card I'm expecting to see a ton of play, but there might be some potentially really strong uses for it. It's going to be like kind of a polarizing card. It's going to be a card that's either going to be really good in a certain deck or not good in a deck whatsoever. And like we said with Lily's Best Effort, you play it with the Solgaleo Lunala, I guess, if you want to, but probably not going to see play outside of that. So those are all of the new cards, but the set is getting some interesting like full arts here. So there are some secret rares coming out, and they're basically like full art versions of some of the non like GXs. And so let's see here what Pokebeach is saying. It will feature a new type of rarity called CHR. Okay, and it said could stand for character, common holo rare, or something else. So we'll have to see. But anyways, we have the Piplup. This is the same one that goes alongside the Empoleon. You got Mimikyu. And those are the only ones that have been revealed thus far. I'm sure these will be revealed in the coming weeks. But as far as all of the new cards, we've already looked at all of them. And I definitely think there's some pretty good cards in the set. This is a pretty small set for Japan. I think there's only like 60. Let's see. Oh, not even that many. Only 49. So not too many to look at. There's definitely a couple I liked. Rosa, definitely am a fan of this. The Roxy seems okay. Ends Resolve, and just Reshiram Zekrom in general I think is probably the best card we looked at, or definitely top 2 or 3. Will is fun. Like I said, I really want to dig through the entire card pool. Again, this is just kind of my first impressions. We'll definitely have something a lot more detailed to report on in our full set review. Obviously, probably in like October whenever we do that for Cosmic Eclipse. Gofairy definitely solid as well. This is, we've been needing a good like hit and run style card. Or like Pokemon to throw active for quite some time. Even Lana's Fishing Rod. Just in general, all of the trainers seem okay overall, so I do like those. Silvally GX, solid card, is not Zoroark GX 2.0. You can quote me on that. I might be wrong, but also a solid non-tag team. Stoutland's got potential. Reshiram Zekrom, this card's just insane. So I think this is, the best attacker we looked at for sure here. Love this card. Steelix wasn't too terrible. Let's see. Gallade, I have a soft spot for this one. Let's see here. Solgaleo Lunala GX Tack isn't like super great, but the 230 is pretty good. I do like this. This could be a good like heavy hitter and like Giratina, like spell tag Malamar variants. Magneton is busted. Really excited to try out some stuff with this. Being able to grab stuff like Lance Prism Star, Surge's Strategy, etc. seems really, really enticing. Raichu, this is definitely going to be probably like a tier 2 deck to be honest, but I'm really excited to try this out. I've always loved the Nuzzle deck, so I like that. Poleon's like just shy of being good, unfortunately. And Vileplume wasn't too good. So, yeah, guys, that's going to be the whole set yet again. Definitely sound below in the comment section what cards in this set are you guys looking forward to whenever they come out in Cosmic Eclipse. Definitely let me know your thoughts down below. But, of course, guys, if you can, feel free to like and subscribe and consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg. Or if you guys can, also pick something up from our online store, rarecandytcg.com. That would also be greatly appreciated. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.